This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.
When the central piece of evidence in your case is a bullet casing, has more controversy around it than a pineapple on pizza, you might have a problem. Richard Allen's case hinges dramatically on one small piece of metal allegedly linking his gun to a double homicide. But the reliability of forensic ballistics is being questioned more intensely than ever before. And I'm also questioning the legitimacy of that bullet ever having those markings on it when it was put into evidence in 2016. There's a way they might have got those markings on there. Joining us, retired FBI Special Agent Robin Dreeke, former chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, to help dissect what exactly is going on here with the bullet that has convicted Richard Allen of these murders, and to help us break down the interrogations and the jailhouse phone calls that have just recently been released from Richard Allen, which are extremely heartbreaking. Trigger warning. Robin, I know you've seen a little bit of it thus far. We're going to break some pieces down, but just the 10,000-foot overview, what has been your reaction when you got a chance to see and hear those interrogations and those phone calls?
Yeah, so the first one I watched a bit of was the accusation about and the discussion around the bullet casing and the bullet. And the first thing that struck me was Richard Allen's reaction to it. Again, you cannot, statement analysis and behavioral analysis and all these things for truth and veracity is 50-50 at best with the best in the world. But I will tell you, his reaction was not the reaction of someone who was guilty. And throughout every interview and interrogation with him, throughout the accusation, the thing I'm generally looking for, and we should all look for, we all pick up on, is congruency of tempo. In other words, does your body language, does your verbals, does everything maintain the same consistency? Because they start out with a very open-ended comfort, inducing baselining of asking him his name, verifying his address, doing all these things. So you're getting what his normal looks like. And then as they start escalating the discussion into other areas, you don't see a shift in him. It's actually very congruent. He continues to be helpful. And then when they brought up the bullet casing, the immediate flat denial, not mine, not possible. I mean, it was boom, 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 boom. There was not it wasn't rehearsed. There was not a stress moment. There was not a what do I say here moment, because they hit it with him as a surprise, and he was as surprised. So what you saw was they hit it with him as a surprise, and did you see the surprise on his face? Yeah, not a surprise. Oh, you got me. Surprises, not mine.
Yeah,
that's what struck me immediately on that one.
Everything running through his head, like how on earth? There's no way. Yeah, and we're going to get back to the bullet here in a minute, but before the bullet was even brought up, they tried to bring him in and get him to admit something that he says he did not do with the bridge guy picture, saying that the sign says, I got experts saying that that's you in the picture, and the experts say it, and really trying to make him believe that there's a lot of people that are behind him being the guy in the picture, despite the only actual experts who've ever looked at the picture and have analyzed it have said it was Ron Logan. No expert has ever said that it was Richard Allen, and they can't say it to any sort of, perfect scientific degree. But some of the experts who actually have looked at it have said Ron Logan, and they know that, but that eludes them. This is the very beginning. This is right when they bring him in, and they've put the pictures down. And they're saying, we think it's you. Let's take a look at how that all went down in his reactions here. This is the first interrogation.
Good luck finding anything that points in that direction. I mean, it's not me. You're not going to make me believe it's me. You're not going to find anything that ties me to those murders. So I'm not really that concerned. You went from trying to, I don't know what you want to say, get my trust, and then slowly lure me into telling you I killed somebody, and I'm not going to do it. I don't know where this change course.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, really not. I just want you to put yourself in the situation where we as police officers are looking at all the evidence that we have and what you've told us right now, okay? Okay, not trying to give you a hard time. Just want to make sure that we get everything taken care of here. That's why we wanted to look at the things that we wanted to look at.
And that's not going to happen now. I mean, like I said, we're done here. So arrest me or take me home.
I understand.
So arrest me or take me home. I'm done.
These
This is stupid.
Okay. So that day, that's your phone. So on that day, you went out there on the bridge, and that you were wearing the same clothing that basically the same clothing that this person here is wearing.
That's what you think. I don't know how you can tell that that's a black Carhartt coat, which is what I told you, a black or blue Carhartt coat. Blue jeans.
I'm curious. I mean, obviously, he's staying stable. His story never, ever changes.
I got another thing to observe.
Yeah.
Too, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead with what your thoughts are there, because I have another question for you.
So, in generally non-verbally, too, is when you, again, these are broad swaths when you're assessing nonverbal behavior. I don't do deep dives of all the micro expressions going on, but you do broad swaths of understanding behavior, what's going on here. So here he is in a situation where the law enforcement officer is telling him he thinks it's him, and that's him in the photo. And so let's look at the not just the tempo, because again, Richard Allen's or Ricky, as his wife calls him, body language remains very consistent, very congruent. The tempo is not changing. Look what he's doing. He's leaning in and over. In general, when you are actually the culprit and the bad guy, and they're showing you something at you, get nonverbal distancing. There is no distancing he's making from that photo because it's not him. He doesn't feel it's so. See what I mean? I said, so that's what it's another one of those little moments where he's not distancing himself physically from what he's being presented.
Yeah. Again,
nothing is ever conclusive in these things, but it's another data point that says he does not see that as him because he's not distancing himself from it. He's like, that's not me. Go.
And that's just one piece of this. And if anybody wants to watch the whole hour some of this initial interview, please do so. It's on the channel. They keep going over and over. And I get there's interrogation tactics in this, but I mean, from your standpoint, I mean, at what point do you go, okay, how many times can we go over this with this guy and he's not changing? They don't seem to be receiving anything that he's giving them. They don't seem to be reacting to anything that he's giving them in an appropriate way. They just keep pounding and expecting different results. And again, You've interrogated people before in a counterintelligence area. This is local police, but what are they doing here? Are they doing this really wrong, or is this normal and how it should be done when interviewing someone of this nature?
There's a lot of I don't like criticizing anyone because I don't know what their strategy was. I don't know what they were doing. It's not the way I would do it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I tell you, the thing that really strikes me the most, because now we're reversing optic. We're no longer thinking and putting ourselves in Richard Allen's shoes and assessing what he's seeing these things for the first time. Now let's put ourselves in law enforcement shoes. Is the behavior of the law enforcement in their interview and interrogating him, I mean, ask yourself this. Do you feel, because feeling is an emotion that we get from observing behaviors around us, do you feel that they believe that he, like in their souls, that they personally believe he did this, or do you get the feeling that they were told he did this? I
was wondering that too, because that's
I feel an emotional detachment. So if they actually believed, think about this, if they actually personally believed that he murdered two little girls, would they be able to maintain that good old boy congruent? Because they haven't deviated their baseline either. They're talking to him the exact same way when they're asking about his address, to the exact same way this is you on the bridge, to the exact same way as the bullet casing, to the exact same ways as these two girls are dead. They have not changed their effect either. So they're having a non-emotional response to everything they're doing, indicating to me that they're playing a role that they were given.
Yeah, I was thinking of that yesterday because I said, I don't know if these people truly believe that he did it or if they're getting more frustrated because they're not going to be able to go back to whoever they need to go back to and say, look, I got what you wanted me to get, because they're not getting it. They're getting so mad and frustrated. And you can see it in another clip later where it's like they are just angry because they're not getting what they're getting. Not necessarily that Rick Allen is saying that he's innocent. It's just damn it, my job. They're going to be mad at me because they said go get this and I didn't get that. That's what I'm wondering.
And see, now as an interviewer, I'll go back to that detail you asked too. Is what they keep trying to lead him down the path. They're not asking questions to have him explain what this is, explain what this is. Because when you're interviewing someone, what you're doing during an interrogation a lot of times is you are setting up like they did. They did a good job of establishing initial rapport. They did a good job of inspiring him to trust them, and he was very comfortable. And then you start then having them explain away incongruencies of what they're observing, incongruencies of what they're seeing from their data points and their evidence bringing in. Well, can you help me explain then? And what they said is, this bullet casing was from your gun. Instead, you rephrase it as like, what do you think is the reason why they said that this bullet casing came from your gun? See what I mean? You reverse it. Instead of making it about what they think, they need to inquire about what it is he can explain away that's being accused of. So it's reversing it, and they never did that once.
They only give him the one option of basically admit that you did this.
Yes, the entire time.
And that's it. And there's no other possible explanation whatsoever. Let's take a look. This is now the second interrogation. So the first one was when they went and questioned him. The initial one actually was back when the girls died, when he raised his hand and said, "How can I help?" And then they sat on that for 6 years. And then all this time later, they're looking for somebody. And there's somebody up for election, too. So it'd be really helpful if we found the killer. And then they go after him. So there's the initial, way back, the second, which is more current day. And then shortly after that, they get a warrant. They search his house. They take his gun, although keep in mind there was no gun used in this crime. But I get you're searching for you're looking into a murder suspect. You're going to take weapons. And they take his gun out of his house. And then we get back to the second interview, and suddenly there's bullet evidence here. There's this ballistic evidence that a bullet was found at the scene. And I believe there probably was. I think it'd be kind of hard to trace all the way back to the initial murders or fake that this thing was in evidence all that time. But they're saying it came from his gun. How interesting, because that's never been brought up before. Here's more of that.
I don't want to be included to begin with. So until the point that you have something that tells you that I did this and you want to subpoena or arrest me or something, I've got nothing to worry about. So I'm not real concerned here, but your attitudes towards me have definitely changed, and I don't like the fact that, it feels more like I'm being interrogated, and so then you're going to tell me that you've already talked to my wife and my daughter and stuff. Like, how straightforward is that? Well,
here's more on the bullets. This here is the same.
There's no way possible. There is no way possible that a round from my gun ended up at a murder scene. It's not possible. So something's obviously wrong.
Something is wrong.
Exactly.
We both know what's wrong.
I didn't do it. And I'm not going to sit here all day trying to convince you that I didn't do it. No. You obviously think that I did.
I'm not going to sit here all day and convince you that I think that you did do it, Rick. I'm just laying down some of the evidence that we have.
Okay.
And we're going to get more.
I don't think so.
We're only giving you the opportunity to get out in front of this. This is your opportunity. Like I said earlier, the truth is easy.
I've got nothing to get out in front of. I'm not going to tell you I did something I didn't do.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't want you to tell me something that you didn't do.
Then stop asking me to.
I'm not. I'm just asking you to tell the truth about this day. I asked you to go back and rehash it, and you wouldn't. Why?
I told you, because I'm not going to... You guys are like trying to trick me into doing something.
I'm not trying to trick you.
I told you what happened. You've already got it. There's no need for me to tell you again.
Story.
Whatever. There aren't any. I don't know how I can make this any clearer. I'm not going to tell you that I had something to do with this.
Again, leaning in there.
So not just that, but first of all, people that have, in general, people that have done something wrong and that are being accused of it and they've actually done it, and are trying to lie about it, you generally typically see panic responses of rapid excuses, rapid changing the subject. I mean, you see a lot of different behaviors of stress being induced, because when you're being accused and you know you've done it, you have stress responses in your brain, and it leaks out of you verbally, non-verbally. You're not seeing any of that. You're seeing exasperation with him, which is congruent with some veracity here. The other thing too is, notice when I don't generally do a lot of nonverbal assessments, but he's so dramatic with this. He is saying, I didn't do it. And now he's not saying it like this with high compression, open. In other words, anything that's up and out, palms up, pencil displays, all the body language that is up and out says, I have high comfort with the things I'm saying. And as he's saying, I didn't do it, high comfort, saying that, in other words, we have very good congruence between the words he's saying and the emotions he's feeling as he's saying it. That's why we believe him, because there's congruency, because they are just exhausting him. And that's why so think about this. If you're a bad guy, you've done something wrong, and they keep poking at you, you're thinking, oh, they're not believing me. I have to give them a better story. Oh, they're still not believing. I got to try this story. Let me try this angle. He's not doing that because there's nothing else to tell. He didn't do it. See what I mean? He's not inventing anything because there's nothing to invent around the lie or fictition.
The tactics that they're using in this round, and we're going to watch another clip here where his wife gets involved. No tactics. I don't even know what's going, because it's so. I know in this country they can make things up, right? I mean, doesn't seem to be any laws that prevent it, because they're telling him that the experts are saying this, and the experts and we have witnesses, and we got this and we got that, and many things that they don't have and they never produced in court.
Groupthink and social proof is what they're trying to use to convince him to confess to something.
But they're making it up. And I know that they can do that here, but I know I've talked to other folks, and I know our listeners and viewers in other countries are always kind of enamored with the way that we interview people or interrogate them, because there's laws over in the UK and such where you can't lie to the person you're interrogating. You can't tell them things that are not true, that you don't factually actually have evidence of, to try and get them or elicit a response. But they do a lot of that here, and they go to his wife and they convince her that this science of this bullet is, bulletproof, pardon the pun, and there's no room for conjecture or anything, when in reality there's a ton of room for this. There's so many problems with this sort of science. And then they talk to neighbors and they pressure him, and how is that going to elicit any sort of confession from someone who didn't do it?
I don't know. It's nothing I've ever done. I've never, So now, Tony, here's what typically will happen. I'll try to bring out a prop for you for this.
Okay.
So typically,
puppets. Are you going to do a puppet show?
Yes. I don't think I was ever allowed to do, during I didn't rely on that kind of stuff, because generally, if I'm going to interview a subject and do a subject interviews, I actually know they're guilty. Yeah. Because I have all the data points. I'm not trying to see if you're guilty. I actually know you're guilty.
Sure.
So generally what you'll do is, imagine this is a file. If anyone saw the movie The Matrix, Mr. Smith does it to Neo at the very beginning. So we have a very large file on you, Mr. Neo. So what happens is you can use props, and you can insinuate. In other words, I can insinuate, imagine this is 3 inches thick.
Sure.
I got a lot of data. I got a lot of evidence talking about the bullet casing. So why don't you tell me in your words what you think is in this file? See what I mean? So in other words, you can use props and insinuate without actually telling untruths, and that way you put it on him. Yeah. And then what you should do is you're listening to words he says, and then you go back at a different angle. You ask the same question differently, and then you say, well, I heard that it could be potentially this. Would you be able to explain that away to me? And how does that, so see what I mean? You keep poking at the same thing from different angles to see if he's consistent with the way he explains it, because if it's a lie, the likelihood of consistency won't be there. Yep. It'll be all over the place, because we have a very, very hard time remembering untruths. And then when you link it to other events that happen later on, it all falls apart. And then that's what you do as an interview, an interrogator, say, well, can you help me understand why you said this here, but it doesn't match what you said here?
Did these guys
go further explain? So
it feels like the investigators here don't even know what to be looking for.
They don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, we're gonna be hard, and that's it, and be like, hopefully we get what we want.
I look at their age. They seem to be seasoned. You know, they've done this a bunch of times. That's why the way they're doing this, they either have never done an interview of this caliber before, because they have nice conversation skills. I think they're great conversationalists, but they haven't done this type.
Yeah.
Now at the same time, though, to me, it still looks like they were told, "Go get this from this guy."
Yeah.
And they didn't necessarily believe it themselves, but they're told to get it. So when you don't believe in what you're doing and you know the evidence isn't there, you got to make shit up, man.
And my question about that is, who's telling him to do that and why?
Yep.
And is that just because they don't want to look bad? They don't want to look like they're incompetent, so go get whatever? I mean, is this just covering for incompetency or lack of good investigation? Because obviously we know the history. There's so many other people that look pretty damning in this. And just go get it. We got to get this done. What's the motivation there for telling them to go do that? That is my big question. Because that's going to tell us a lot, whether it's about ego and this just totally went off the rails, or if this is covering for something else. And that's what I'm wondering. When detectives sat Richard Allen down to discuss the Delphi murders of Abby and Libby, they didn't exactly invite him in for tea and biscuits. Instead, they tried every trick in the book to break him down using flawed forensic claims, pressure, emotional appeals, flat out lies. It's like they watched too many episodes of Law & Order without checking the science homework first. Psychotherapist Shavaun Scott joins us today to help unpack what exactly was happening in the interrogation room, and we have a lot of clips to walk through and witness as far as what happened now that they are released. Shavaun, before we do that, when interrogators use exaggerated or even fictional expert evidence, because that's what was used in here, to pressure someone into confessing something they didn't do. How does that typically impact someone psychologically, especially like this, where, again, I don't believe he did it, and I think a lot of people don't believe that he did it, so we're going to operate on that plane.
It really is designed to coerce a confession, and a lot of us have ethical concerns about the tactics that are used in these kind of interrogations. But it is pretty standard, across most law enforcement agencies, and it is designed to elicit cognitive and emotional fatigue, to completely break the person down. And at some point, a vulnerable person may just agree because they want out of the pressure. So they may say they did it when in fact they didn't.
And you never got a confession out of him while he was in a good place, in a sane, healthy mindset. But the argument is, oh, well, he confessed later in those phone calls. And we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But at what point, I mean, I get some of these tactics, although some of them are pretty archaic and don't really work very well. There's other ways of handling these sort of things. You'd wish there was more education for investigators, that they could adopt some of that. But, I mean, it's like we were watching, like a 1950s episode of Matlock or something. It's like, what's going on here? When you're not getting what you want, which they clearly were not getting what they wanted, at what point do you stop? At what point do you go, maybe this isn't our guy?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the question. I mean, when do you finally go, okay, we've tried to break him and we're not getting anything here?
Right. And it's painful to watch, particularly when you see his genuine distress and confusion. It's excruciating.
It is. We're going to start taking a look here at one of the clips from the interview. We're going to start at the beginning. So there was 2 interviews that were done. There was one where it was initially him and some investigators, and they start out kind of friendly, trying to gain his trust. And then they slowly introduce some evidence in, and he firmly denies it. And there's another interrogation that happens a little bit after that, and we'll watch some clips from that as well, where they get a little more intense, and they eventually arrest him. And then we have the jailhouse calls that start from beginning to crazy. Let's start at the very beginning, so everybody has a context on what Richard Allen, really was like before being put into a box for more than a year and tortured. This is initial interrogation.
Good luck finding anything that points in that direction. I mean, it's not me. You're not going to make me believe it's me. You're not going to find anything that ties me to those murders. So I'm not really that concerned. You know, you went from trying to, I don't know what you want to say, get my trust and then slowly lure me into telling you I killed somebody and I'm not going to do it. You know, I don't know where this changed course.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, really not. I just want you to put yourself in the situation where we as police officers are looking at all the evidence that we have and what you've told us right now, okay? Okay, not trying to give you a hard time, just want to make sure that we get everything taken care of here. That's why we wanted to look at the things that we wanted to look at.
And that's not going to happen now. I mean, like I said, we're done here. So arrest me or take me home.
I understand. So
arrest me or take me home. I'm done.
These
This is stupid.
okay. So that day, on that day, you went out there on the bridge, and that you were wearing the same clothing basically the same clothing that this person here is wearing.
That's what you think. I don't know how you can tell that that's a black Carhartt coat, which is what I told you, a black or blue Carhartt coat. Blue jeans.
So that's him initially, just very, he's frustrated because they keep accusing him. They initially had walked him into, what were you wearing that day? And he was somewhat vague about it. It's like a blue or a black Carhartt coat, probably, because they're asking him to remember what he wore 6 years ago on a hike. And then jeans. And so they're saying because he was wearing that, it must be him. I would challenge anybody to go to Delphi, Indiana on that day and see how many men were out there walking around in a Carhartt coat and jeans. I'm going to guess a high percentage was out there like that. What did you take off of that clip where he seems to be very sincere in my estimation?
Yeah. It's listening to him, it feels very genuine. It feels very sincere. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes people who are guilty can't present that way. But the other thing I really notice is how cogent he is, and his affect is normal. He's offended, which, if any of us were accused of something we didn't do like that, we'd be offended by it. And he doesn't seem incredibly nervous at this point in this clip because he's convinced that he's innocent. And that's how it comes off to me. But this is clearly not a man at this point who is showing any signs of psychosis.
No, and he's very much like onto them right away. He's calling them out. He's like, no, I didn't do this. You're not going to, and he's confident, which one would think you would be confident if you didn't commit the crimes. Like, yeah, go look at whatever you want, but I'm not just going to give you carte blanche to wander around my house and talk to everybody in my world. You got to have some more evidence to come in and do that sort of thing. And so they eventually had the bullet, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But here he is right now talking about not wanting to be the fall guy in this.
I don't want to be somebody's fall guy, and we're going to try to make pieces of a puzzle fit somewhere they don't fit so we can close this thing. And I'm not saying you guys, please don't think I'm questioning your integrity. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. I mean, I guess that's where I'm at. It doesn't seem like a simple conversation we're having. It seems more like you think I might have done it. So
I understand what you're saying. I completely get what you're saying and how I would feel from your point of view. Okay.
Yeah.
But from our situation, what we're trying to do is be able to show what all you were doing that day. Take a look at everything. Make sure that we can show that what you're saying is true. Okay, so that we can be able to say to someone else, whoever's prosecuting this case, look, we looked at Mr. Allen, he's not our guy. And we looked at him because we looked at his phone. And I was going to ask you something else too, be able to look at your car, and also, with your permission, we'd like to look at your house. And so all these things are very, very important just to be able to.
No, I get that. I mean, I'm not going to, if you get to a point where you think that I need further investigating and you want to get a warrant, do it, that's fine, but I'm not going to have somebody going through my house and everything.
Reasonable request. Reasonable to say, no, you're not just going to walk into my house. What's your thoughts on how this is going?
Yeah, it's interesting that, he's being very reasonable with them and even going to the point of saying, I'm not questioning your integrity. I mean, he's treating them with courtesy, but assertiveness, which is entirely appropriate.
Yeah, it's, again, just, I've watched a lot of interrogations, and maybe I'm biased because I do have an opinion on this, but I've never seen one where the guy looks more innocent than I've seen in this one. I've seen somewhere where the people are innocent and they look somewhat guilty or at least questionable. Yeah. This one just, I don't know. I can see myself in Richard Allen. I think a lot of us can see ourselves in that of just like, yeah, you would be offended. Like where are you even coming up with these sort of things?
Right.
And do you think they already have their mind made up here that they're going to eventually get him?
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels like, we're gonna kind of play it like this, but we already know that it's going to be you. And we want to go through your house. We want to do this or that. Here's another clip from that initial investigation. Them kind of throwing it back in his court as his frustration continues to mount. Them asking, well, how would you handle this if you were us? Is another tactic here.
Tell me what you would do differently if you were in our situation. You had this information. How would you react? What would you do? You do the same thing that we were doing right now.
What information is it that you have? You have that I was out there, and I told you from the very beginning that I was out there.
Yes, you did.
I didn't hide it.
Did you see this guy?
I didn't know.
Okay.
I told you, I see the only person that I clearly remember seeing that, and this isn't from the day, I mean, this is the next day. The only people or person that came into my mind were those three girls that I seen.
Richard, we're not upset with you, not mad at you, anything like that. We're just trying to get to the bottom of this, okay? No, I'm not here to give you a hard time. I'm just here to try to get the situation straightened out. And what we want to do is simply get to the truth. What would help us get to the truth is being able to look inside of some of the things you're talking about, okay?
And I get that.
Okay.
And maybe on the other side of things, sure. And on the other side of things, if I thought I had something that was going to help you, that would, what do I have that's going to help you?
Okay. Well, I have some questions we can go through here, if you don't mind.
Again, whatever is going to help you. And keep in mind, this is 6 years after the crime. This is after he already went in initially and said, hey, how can I help?
Right.
And suddenly they think that they got their guy. What was your reaction to that one?
Yeah, and they'll do just about anything. I mean, they're pulling out every possible technique they've got to try to get the response that they want. Mm-hmm. And it does seem like their mind is made up. They've got their guy as far as they're concerned.
We're now going to take a listen to the Jailhouse phone calls, because ultimately what they wanted here was a confession from Richard Allen, which he did not give them.
Yeah.
And they have run out of other people to go after. The guy who's really points to is dead. The other guy who it really points to, where he was communicating with one of the girls one of the last people known to actually have communicated with them, a known child predator who is away in prison now for that very crime, but unrelated to this case, and planned to meet one of the girls by the property of Ron Logan, Keegan Kline. He has nothing to do with it, according to the investigators, but this guy does. And they got him in prison now, not jail, waiting trial, prison, solitary confinement for about 14 months. His attorneys have testified to not having adequate access to even work with him, having to talk through like the bar in the door. No place where they could sit down and have a conversation with their client for the rights that he's entitled to. And this is what you end up getting. We are going to start listening to Richard Allen in a state before he's totally broken. And we're going to hear these confessions that so many hang their hats on in this case, that so many have hung their hats on before ever being to audibly hear them. If you weren't in that courtroom, you have not heard these phone calls, unless you've already heard them since watching this. But these are brand new. And have an open mind here. If you think, well, he confessed, context is very important here. So this is early on. This is Richard Allen, I think, realizing he's in a corner for something he did not do, but all he wants is for the best of his family. Let's take a listen to this. It's not a video.
I don't know how to explain something that
I'm sorry, it's this one right here.
Possible.
Let's take a listen to this.
You just know that if anything happens, I'll see you in the next lifetime. I swear I will, okay? Okay. You take care of the family for me. I love you all.
I love you too, sweetheart.
Okay. Bye-bye. It's good to hear your voice.
I love you too,
Bye.
sweetie.
Okay. It's going to cut us off here.
Okay, I love you. Okay.
I love you.
I love you, honey.
I love you. I'll hold on.
Thank you for using GTL. This is a prepaid debit call from
Ricky. Hey.
Hello? Hello?
Good morning.
I want to stop there. That's when he's talking to his mom, but that initial one was him talking with his wife. And take care of the kids, take care of the family for me. He really felt trapped. I want to see if this is the other part.
I love you too much.
Yeah.
And every time I talk to you, I feel like it's going to be the last time I get to talk to you.
I know. I wish I could hug you.
I can't explain what's been going on.
Oh.
I don't want you to worry about me.
Yeah.
I'm a man and I'll take care of myself, but I'm worried about you. And that's all I do is worry about you. So, and you let everybody else know how much I love them, won't you?
You need to hang in there, honey, okay?
Huh?
You need to just hang in there, because they're going to get you an attorney soon, okay?
Will you just let everybody know how much I love them?
Of course I will. They already know, hon.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Nobody loves me anymore.
Stop. That's not true.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Not true. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know what you told me. I know what you told me, and I believe you.
Yes.
I just, knowing I'm never going to see you again, or at least it feels that way. I'm just saying, if it gets too hard, just tell them to come and get me and bring me and bring me to see you, and I'll tell them whatever they want me to say.
No.
Okay. I don't need you to try and be strong for me. Okay? You need to be weak. You need to be held. You take care of yourself, okay?
That's...
Yeah, he's broken at this point.
Yeah. He can't explain what's going on, and you can hear it genuinely in his voice because he doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? I mean, it would blow your mind that, like, this could even happen in this country, especially. Mm-hmm. And saying if it's too hard, I'll tell them whatever they want to hear.
Whatever they want to hear,
so you're okay. Which is ultimately what those officers wanted. And those investigators, they wanted to hear specifically. And hey, if we put him into solitary confinement and don't tell his attorneys and give no way to object, we're just going to put him there for 14 months. Oh, you'll get what you want to hear, not make that it's real, but you'll get what you want to hear. And it seems that they knew that little tactic. It makes me wonder how many other people they've done this to as well.
Sure.
Yeah, what a horrible place to put a man that you don't have, is not even convicted of a crime. I mean, what did you feel out of that?
Yeah, I took meticulous notes during the trial on particularly everything related to his mental health and the confessions. Notes here that I'm looking at: October 22nd, arrest in solitary confinement, no symptoms of psychosis. March 23, the symptoms of psychosis began. Solitary confinement, lights on 24/7. And even though he was becoming bizarre, he converted to Christianity and started a lot of religious mumbo jumbo, clearly beginning to look psychotic and break down. And the psychologist at the prison, who I think was inadequate at best and possibly worse, noted that he was faking and didn't believe him. And then he just became progressively psychotic, terribly ill, and the confessions continued. So
yeah, we're to listen to some of those confessions. Yeah, he's faking.
Yeah.
Where did she get her degree? Like, I'm curious. Like, what studies have you done? Like, who have you studied under? Like, what's your experience in this to think that is not
right
authentic? Here's another call.
It's like I feel like I've lost my mind.
This is where different tone.
Okay, I live in it right now. It's not a good place to be in. Not a good place at all. And I don't have much say in anything, I'm sure.
But you know that I done it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Okay? Want to have a good conversation between us? No, just don't. I guess it doesn't matter what I think, but
Of course it does. Just in a really frustrating spot right now.
right.
I said I'm just in a really frustrating spot right now. And I know that that's nothing compared to where you're at, so I'm not trying to...
No, your side is a lot worse than mine. I have freedoms that you don't have, so I'm not going to go there. I feel guilty about that.
I don't know why nobody will talk to me and be honest with me. I don't feel like anybody's willing to be honest with me anymore. Like everybody's afraid to hurt my feelings or something.
I think people have to be very careful when they talk. And we all do.
Yeah.
Of course, nobody ever answers. You have to go to voicemail. You just right now, but your soul doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I was hearing it in her voice, like a sense of desperation here of, it doesn't really matter what I think. I know she said that in there. I mean, the torture that she must be going through, having to contemplate, well, they're telling me like this is, solid evidence against him. And how did that bullet get there? I mean, how does one cope with that? It was someone in her position.
Incredible desperation and stress for someone like that. And I there are things that are just unimaginable. And I don't think we have a coping strategy book for how do you get through the unimaginable other than you hang with your people, right? The people that share your heart and your concerns and your thoughts. You need other people. And that's what I see him, the desperation on his end, wanting to know if people still love him and so concerned that people don't love him. That's what we do. That's how we get through the hard times, is those heart-to-heart connections.
Because to him, it feels like sanity has left him. I mean, everything has left him. He's being in this position for a crime he did not commit. And the world seems to be, in his perspective, from what he's seeing and experiencing, is just the opposite. I mean, it's totally bizarre. I want to go into another clip here from the interrogation of Richard Allen. This is now the second interrogation where, spoiler alert, eventually they do arrest him here. And this is a whole new chapter in this, because between the first interrogation that we watched and this one, they did get a warrant and they went in his house and they took some things out of his house, including his Sig Sauer pistol. Keep in mind, a gun was not used in this crime because they allegedly found a bullet at the crime scene, one that they claimed matched Richard Allen's gun, but they're only claiming that this matches his gun after they came into possession of his gun. I find this whole putting together the pieces of the puzzle in this order rather interesting. Number one, the ballistics way of looking at this sort of thing is not very sound science. You can look into it. It's not admitted in court very often, especially with an unspent round. There's a lot of ways that could be from pretty much any other gun, especially when you have 40-some people trampling over this scene with guns as they're investigating it. Might have the same bullet, very likely to have the same bullet somewhere that dropped out of someone's gun, if that even happened. Are you finding it a little bit odd that, okay, so they have this bullet. My thought was that it was somebody else's that dropped it. But I'm wondering, if they did find a bullet on the ground, they got his gun and go, oh shit, he has a gun that actually fits this. Well, let's run it through real quick. There's your marker.
Yeah,
we'd like marked.
We'd like to think that things like that have never happened, but study history, things like that have happened.
It makes me wonder. It really makes me wonder if they, that, because this ends up being the only thing they're able to really go at him with is this bullet theory. And this bullet that they say came from his gun, but the only time that comes out is after they already have his gun in evidence. And it's a bit questionable with so many other questionable things in this case. And I believe maybe that bullet was found back then, but I also believe that they probably did take it out because they wanted to compare the markings on it. So inevitably it did get taken out of the evidence handling. And who's to say? I don't know. It seems like it would have been a really easy one, and that's the only damn thing they have on the guy. That's the only thing that's how they connected him to the crime. No digital history, no criminal history, no witnesses. There is nothing else to put him there other than that. And this is how they presented it to him in court, and this is how he reacted.
There's no way possible. There is no way possible that a round from my gun ended up at a murder scene. It's not possible. So something's obviously wrong.
Something is wrong.
Exactly.
We both know what's wrong.
I didn't do it. And I'm not going to sit here all day trying to convince you that I didn't do it. No. You obviously think that I did.
I'm not going to sit here all day and convince you that I think that you did do it, Rick. I'm just laying down some of the evidence that we have.
Okay.
And we're going to get more.
I don't think so.
We're only giving you the opportunity to get out in front of this. This is your opportunity. Like I said earlier, the truth is easy.
I've got nothing to get out in front of. I'm not going to tell you I did something I didn't do.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't want you to tell me something that you didn't do.
Then stop asking me to.
I'm not. I'm just asking you to tell the truth about this day. I asked you to go back and rehash it and you wouldn't. Why?
I told you, because I'm not gonna, you guys are like trying to trick me into doing something.
I'm not trying to trick you.
I told you what happened. You've already got it. There's no need for me to tell you again. Story. Whatever. There aren't any. I don't know how I can make this any clearer. I'm not going to tell you that I had something to do with this.
I mean, they go on him for hours. He's saying the same thing consistently. There's no change or break in his story.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Out of all the interrogations I've seen, this one feels on a very gut level like an innocent person. And I think if any of us put ourselves in that position, we would be responding exactly the same way, with absolute shock and denial and confidence that it's going to be shown that he didn't do it. You know, he seems very confident of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be doing the exact same thing. Like, okay, go through your dog and pony show. Whatever you feel you need to do, you're not going to get anything. I wasn't there. And they seem very angry at that because they've blown a lot of leads on this already. One of their probably prime suspects is already dead. And they're like, oh, we got to find somebody. It's just, that's evil. It's evil to do something like this. This guy has a life. He's a normal guy. He has an adult child, a girl who still loves her dad. And you have a wife that seems pretty normal. There's really no history of anything with this. But they will not accept, maybe you're wrong, for an answer. They eventually go at him quite a bit, and they tell him that his wife is in the other room, and the wife thinks he did it, and they talk to his neighbor, and they talk to his daughter, and basically said, we just ruined your life, and did all these things to, and said all these things to people that you care about, and would care about that you would care about their opinion, and then they bring the wife in. I want to talk about this on the other side. Let's take a look.
They want me to tell them that I did it, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to admit to something that I didn't do. How stupid is that? I don't care what they do to me. I'm not going to admit to doing something I had nothing to do with. And I'm not going to try to explain something I can't explain, because I don't know. You tell me, because I don't know. I just know that I never even carried the gun unless we were going mushroom hunting, tromping through the woods, or fishing along the river. That's the only time I even carried it for the most part. I never even would have, hell, I haven't carried my gun, and I don't even remember a time when I used to carry it. I mean, other than going fishing, like if we were going night fishing.
This is a crime circus presentation.
But how could the bullet get out there, honey? I can't understand that.
I told you, I can't either, hon. There's two explanations. One is, the bullet didn't come from my gun.
It did though, honey. They got ballistics on it.
I get that. Then it didn't come from a murder scene. I don't know what else to say. I get that. I get what they're saying. What I'm telling you is, if that bullet came from my gun, there's no way it was found with their investigation for the murders. There's no way. I can't explain something I have no answer for.
I mean, it's heartbreaking watching that. I mean, from a non-investigator standpoint, it seems cruel and unusual. I mean, it seems horrible to take your wife and obviously very one-sidedly convince her that number one, that sort of science is even solid, that there's no way it couldn't be anything else, and tell your wife that, tell his daughter that, tell his neighbors that. I mean, and put this whole pressure brigade on that basically turn everyone against him with evidence they say is just, completely rock solid, which it's not.
Yeah.
And then bring her in there in that sort of a setting. I mean, again, I'm not an expert in interrogating people by any means, but this just doesn't seem like a way to get any sort of accurate information out of anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really feels cruel and not to mention manipulative and unethical. And it's heartbreaking to watch. And I guess there's a hope that a guilty person in this scenario will confess to a family member. And maybe that's happened in the past, but it's just, really awful to watch it in this case.
They continue to go on and manipulate him and just present things over and over that just it doesn't reveal anything. Let's just take another look at this.
The prosecutor and the other investigators, they want to see you lock you up, throw away the key. I don't think you're
ridiculous.
Just listen to me for 2 minutes. Let me explain this to you. I'm on your side. I talked to you a little bit out there on the scene. I know you mentioned a couple times you don't want to be the fall guy for this. You also mentioned to me the other day when I was telling you, hey, I want to check the property out, make sure there's no damage, and you said, doesn't matter, it's over. You made comments like that to me that really concerned me.
Sure.
Right. It's concerning.
And what I mean by it's over is that you've already started something here that there's no backing out of, so you've done, the damage is done, I guess is what I'm saying. That's what I would have been referring to.
Okay, and I agree with that. We have started this, we've been working on this for a long time, and all the evidence is clearly indicating you're involved in this. And listen to me, Rick, I don't believe you should be the fall guy. But all the evidence, you say you're out there, we have witnesses out there, we have your vehicle, we have experts. We have experts that say that's you on the video and that's your voice on the video.
Okay.
Experts, not me, because I'm not an expert.
I gotcha.
Okay, and now we have your round at the scene.
Which is a flat out lie. They don't have experts that say it was it did not exist. There was no.
Yeah.
The only experts that have ever expressed an opinion on this have pointed to Ron Logan. They have never pointed to it being Richard Allen. And I know that they can interrogate people like that in the U.S. In other countries, you can't. You cannot make things up.
Exactly.
But we somehow allow that here. I'm assuming that that's a huge flaw in our system.
I sure think so. It just makes my skin crawl to think of the innocent people that have gone to prison or the death penalty from tactics like this.
Let's watch one more clip from the interrogation before we move over to
right
the
fucking here, Red.
You got one piece of evidence
I got
that I can't
multiple
explain.
pieces. Multiple. I'm not showing you my whole fucking hand here.
I don't care. I'm showing you I'm done talking.
And now you're going to drag your fucking wife and your daughter through this because you're too fucking bullheaded to get out in front of this and admit that you made a mistake. And whatever the fuck happened out there, we'll never fucking know because you're too big of a fucking bullheaded. Go ahead.
So tell you I did something.
Tell me
that
the
I
truth.
didn't do.
The truth, Rick. I don't want to know.
I've told you the truth and you don't want to hear it.
The evidence tells me otherwise. The evidence clearly indicates you're involved in this.
No, it doesn't.
It fucking does.
It doesn't. I'm telling you that there is no way that a bullet from my gun was used in these murders.
And I'm telling you that we had this fucking round on February the 14th, 2017. It's been secured in a fucking laboratory. And we've tested other guns
I understand what you're saying.
I want her to hear this,
I understand what you're saying. What I'm telling you is I can't explain something I don't understand.
Oh, the scientists explained it for you. The lab analysis analysts have explained that for you. They're saying that this round, without a doubt, came from your gun.
No, they're not.
Then
and you told me
taken it from somewhere else then. Because it's not possible.
I feel like investigators that do this sort of stuff should be prosecuted and put away because it's like this is the insecure dope from high school that couldn't get a job at the Dairy Queen and decided to go into law enforcement. That's what it's like. He has the same argument tactics that he would have had when he was 15. Before we go into the calls, we saw that. Any other reactions to this?
Just again, it feels like an innocent person. And if I were in his seat there, I would be as incensed and, holding my ground as he is. And it's just, it's just hard to watch.
Let's listen to some of the confessions that people are hanging their hats on and saying, oh, yeah, this is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe I'm losing my mind, but I'm not sure.
Oh, no. No. So they allowed you to call, or have you been able to and just couldn't?
Oh, great. This is the part where it gets weird.
Yeah. I'm right here.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah. What's going on, hon?
I don't know. I just think maybe I've lost my mind.
Oh. No, honey. We've all lost our minds at this point.
So Brad and so I can trust Brad and Andy then?
Yes, you can, sweetheart. Yes. Let's not talk about anything that we don't need to, but no, there are lawyers, honey. There are lawyers.
Well, I need to tell you something anyway.
Okay. Are you sure you want to talk to me over the phone?
I think I have to.
Okay.
I need you to know that I did this.
What? No. There's no way. There's no way, dear.
Love me.
Dear, there's no way. Okay.
I hope you still love me.
I always will go love you, honey, but no, you have not done anything. And I think you are not well. So you don't need to be saying you did something you didn't do.
Well, hon, this is the first time I've been able to talk to you, and I've been trying forever.
Were you just not allowed to call me, or?
I don't know what's going on, hon.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to lose my mind now, though.
Don't. I'm supposed to be meeting Brad here for some reason, so. I don't know what's happening.
I've been asking for personal visitation, and that's not going through, and
I know.
then it's taken me, feels like it's taken me forever.
You have one.
What has gone on in his mind where this does obviously not sound like the same guy that we heard at the beginning of this?
No.
He's so monotone, just so broken. I mean, no emotion in anything he's saying. What's happening?
He's confused, and that's a sign of psychosis. He says very clearly, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what reality is anymore. And at the same time that these confessions started happening, these are from my notes during the trial, crying, screaming, drinking toilet water, drank bottle of hot sauce, urinated on his sleeping mat. My wife stated, my wife is dead because of what I did. Masturbating while singing Don't Let Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. On floor mumbling, stuffing papers in the toilet. He was eating pages of his Bible. You know, this is a person who's had a psychotic break.
Yeah.
And no supposed confession given by a person who is delusional and confused and doesn't know what reality is, we can't consider that a confession. And it's bizarre to me that there are clinical psychologists on YouTube who still think he's guilty because they should know better.
It's insane. I mean, this is just what I got, and I'm wondering what your opinion is of it, because I was wondering when he is very monotone and when he is stating that he did it, it sounds like he's reading something. I mean, I was almost wondering if there's somebody there with a notepad going, let him say his spiel so it sounds human, and then,
sure,
I need you to know that I did this. It feels, it sounds like someone who's reading something, you know, and I question if he's even in a mind state to be able to read something. But I did find that very bizarre, because it didn't sound like it was coming from him. It sounds like you're going to say this to your wife on the phone. And that's how we're going to get your confession, because they weren't going to get it by sitting him down and having a conversation, although at this point they might have been able to. But it just,
sure, possible. But the change in emotional tone, the change in affect is, again, classic psychotic break. You know, the person, they're just not themselves in any way. They don't experience the world the same way. Their thinking is disorganized, and that's why we can't believe what they say. They tell bizarre stories. I mean, he said during the same period of time that he had killed his grandchild. He doesn't have a grandchild. So, you know, he would confess to basically anything at this point.
And he said at the beginning he would. He said, if it, you know, I will do anything. I will. I can't explain what's going on. If it's too hard, I'll tell them whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like he's just strictly operating on survival, and his brain's like, say whatever. One more, and then we'll wrap up. This is, I believe, to his mom.
I killed Abby and Libby.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't, Darren.
Yes, I did.
Don't say
I don't know why.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't, Darren. You're not feeling well. There's something wrong. They've messed up your meds or something there.
No, I mean, I evidently did it.
No, you didn't. Why would you say that?
Because maybe I did.
No, you didn't, dear.
I think I did.
No, you didn't. They are screwing with you there, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. There's something wrong. They are messing with you. They are messing with your mind.
Did Dad tell you I called?
Yeah.
What did I say to him?
I don't know. I talked to your mom, but she called me in, and we're just worried about you because something's not right.
Is there a way to talk to Dad?
No, honey, I'm not with them right now. And there's something wrong. They're screwing with you there.
What did I say to Dad?
They have done something to your food, or they've done something to your meds. There's something wrong. Don't you ever say you did anything, because I know you didn't.
I think I did.
No, you didn't. Why would you say that?
Because I think I did.
No, you didn't, dear. You know you didn't.
I wish I could say I didn't. I don't know.
You don't know. See, exactly. There's something wrong. They're screwing with you. They're trying to get you to say things. They're trying to mess with your mind.
No, I deserve it, I guess.
Break that one down.
Yeah, he's confused, and again, he doesn't know what reality is. It's obvious psychosis. He doesn't know if he did it or not because he's been told for so long he did it. He's psychotic. He can develop delusions. You know, he truly doesn't know. Maybe I did. I don't know. Evidently, I did it. You can't call that a confession.
How were these allowed into court as being confessions? I mean, my God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then you have the psychologist, and obviously we had issues with her with trying to, be part of the media sphere on this. Yeah. I mean, we were all very frustrated on this case to begin with. Now that we are able to see and hear these pieces, oh my God.
And I don't think most people understand psychosis, unfortunately. And that's one of my passions in life, is trying to explain that it's a brain illness.
Yeah.
It's biology. And when people are delusional, when they're hallucinating, it's not their fault, but you certainly can't believe what they say.
No. And we can see the direct path of breaking someone down on this. That's really what we've watched. If you're watching the entirety of this this segment, we went from a guy who was very, chipper, like, I didn't do this, like, you can't prove it because I didn't do it, to this. And you could do that to anybody if you had the power. If you could control where they're doing, what they're experiencing, when they're sleeping, when they're not sleeping, where they're sleeping, how they're sleeping, what they're eating. And he's highly medicated too.
Yeah.
And that's somehow a valid confession in Delphi, Indiana. It's not a place I'd want to be accused of anything.
Definitely.
Because my God. Yeah. So that's happening in the United States of America, everyone, in Delphi, Indiana. This is a case, if you want to get behind something where a wrongful conviction and a family has been destroyed and lives ruined, and there's plenty of people out there who have done it and they're just walking free, this would be the case to pay attention to, and we will continue to watch it.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.